want to say a few words about politics and political ideas in this modern world and how they fit into the classic teachings of wisdom and spiritual ideas. And I think in some ways, classic philosophy and spirituality is about a kind of inner politics, a personal politics. It's a politics of change. Hopefully, the better part of oneself overcomes the lesser part. It's an inner politics. Now, most of the people in the world don't think a whole lot about that, or don't even maybe have much of a concept of it. I think a lot of the world thinks of life and what's going on in terms of, everything's outside, and so the only way you're going to make changes to make things better is on the outside by forcing other people who I suppose don't think the way you do to do something different from what they're doing and all that sort of thing. But I will say that there are some things about politics that are important. We should pay attention to politics to a degree, to be aware of what's going on in the world. It's good to have an understanding, and it's good to, I think, embrace certain values that serve the greater good. And it's good to see that, as the classic teaching goes, that what makes for oneness makes for good, and what makes for separation makes for evil. In that context, I think it's important for any one of us to understand there are always going to be people out there who don't look like us, who don't believe the same things that we do, who maybe have some ideas or believe in some ideas that contradict those that we believe in. But we need to understand that even though they're not the same as we are and they have these differences, that doesn't make them pure evil. And we should not look at the situation as we or whoever I am and all of my friends are always right, and whoever those people are, they're evil, they're wrong, they're bad. That is the thought process that creates problems for us and other people, this divisiveness. And it's actually becoming, I think you could say, more and more widespread in the world now. This is a very divisive time politically, and people are breaking off into these polarized factions where they're calling each other names, and there's all this hatred, and there's all this blaming. It's constant blaming. It's victimhood. There's victimhood on both sides of the political spectrum, and it's people pointing fingers and saying, you people over there, whoever you are, you're the embodiment of everything that's evil, and everything that's ever happened in the world that's bad is your fault, and you're trying to destroy everything. And it's really not like that, number one, no matter who you're talking about. Although the people who are the most extreme are the ones that are starting to create things that can be pointed out as not constructive. What this world really needs, and what we all really need to the extent that we can do it, is to give everybody some consideration and everybody a seat at the table, and not get caught up in our judgments, not get caught up in our resentments, not think like victims, like somebody did me wrong, so I'm going to hold on to that for the rest of my life, or I'm going to always see it that way, or I'm going to blame everybody else or blame somebody else for all these problems because they did it and it's all their fault. We all got to own the decisions we've made. We all got to understand, we've done things that are wrong too, and we got to try and figure out a better, more constructive thought process for ourselves. That's what that. And if we start thinking that way, we start having a better, motivation to do something that's constructive, then that's what's going to make life more meaningful and enriching for us and everybody else as well. If we sit back in our sense of victimhood and blame everybody else, and we're always afraid, pointing fingers and blaming somebody for whatever else, then we're going to less and less accomplish anything that's good and meaningful ourselves. That's the way it works. So, one thing I would encourage anyone to do who's looking at things politically in this modern world is not listen to any one political commentator, because they are so polarized these days, And so many of them, although I'm not going to say any one of them is horrible or bad or whatever else, and many of them may have something that's valuable to say. But the thing to understand is all the people who are being criticized, no matter what, if it's from the right or from the left or whatever else, and being called all sorts of names and depicted as evil or maybe part of some conspiracy, actually it doesn't matter what side you're on. Look at those other people from a more understanding kind of perspective, and what you will realize is no matter what side they're on, they're not as evil as somebody else might make them out to be. Try to understand where they're coming from and understand that everybody's got a point. And everybody, even if they're wrong, which some people are wrong, believes that what they are getting behind is really the right thing. That's what they believe. And that, that is almost always correct and true. And you will see that if you try to give people enough consideration to see where they're coming from. And when you do that, then you'll get into less of a fear-based thought process. You won't be afraid of what these other people are going to say, and you won't get you won't get so upset because these people don't agree with you. And you realize that maybe I can give this person a seat at the table, and maybe we'll all try to work this out together through some kind of process, hopefully a negotiation where everybody gets consideration, and then we can solve problems constructively. And I think that's really the best way to go about it, because there's virtue in the ideas of the past. There's virtue in ideas that kind of say, let's move forward. There is virtue and goodness in many different perspectives about many different things. And if we just need to see the upside and be objective about the downside, about certain ideas that don't work or maybe are not constructive, or just, maybe just are going to create some form of damage of some kind because they're based on ideas that are simply not correct. If it's not correct, then there's nothing wrong with saying so. But again, if you start figuring things out in a holistic kind of way, giving everybody considerations to the table, that's really going to be the way forward to make good progress. And that way you're not fighting against everybody else all the time, and you're not, everything isn't a tug of war. Unfortunately, there aren't enough people who appreciate that these days, and that is unfortunate, but at the same time, it's not for me to judge them, because I don't want to turn it into the whole thing where I hate those people because you're hating somebody else or whatever else. It's not about that. Like I said, everybody should get some consideration where they're coming from regardless. I'll be objective about something if it is worth mentioning, but it's not all it could be. But if it doesn't matter where it's coming from, everybody deserves at least some consideration what they say or do. So I'll leave it at that for now. If you like the video, you can click like, maybe subscribe. I think it's a good idea. And I will be back again soon, talk about things that are related. So thanks for watching.